I've always been a real NS-10 person. I've always been able to get kind of what 80% of where I want to go with NS-10s, right? But like, I've also always worked with engineers, like had people, I mean, I might record overdubs, but I'd have a real engineer do tracking or come mix with me or things like that, from Ed Cherney to Jakir King, like just, you know, billion good people. And usually engineers like to be able to go back and forth between something small and something larger. And I got used to that habit too, where I started to like to really do that. Like I could learn things going to a good, bigger speaker from an NS-10 type speaker. And I think that's still a good general way to think about recording, right? Go from your Tannoys to your car and back to your Tannoys. But like, I mastered records a lot with Doug Sachs at the mastering lab. He was kind of my go-to for years, and he taught me about mastering, and he was really great to me that way. And kind of hold my hand early on through that process until I learned what mastering was and what it could do. And he'd always done this thing in-house at the mastering lab where they would do modified versions of the Tannoy Super Golds for engineers in their kind of wheelhouse. I don't think they really marketed them, but like the engineers in the mastering lab sort of clan, you know, the Greg Ladanis and the Bill Schnees and all those sort of people, they would do this for them and do this as one of their setups. And so Doug, I think, mentioned to me one day, he goes, you know, I got a pair about ready, another pair about ready with a matched amp, where they would take a Yamaha power amp and modify it specifically to work with these crossovers that they would build for these Tannoy Super Golds. And he goes, I got a setup coming ready, and would you be into it? I go, absolutely. I'd love to have that. This is still in my basement studio. And so I got these down there, and yeah, it was a real, you know, for me, that was a game changer. Because I was sitting around making records at that time solely on NS-10s, but then I'd watch the good engineers go from NS-10s to bigger speakers, and often these. And so yeah, I put that in my bass office, and I go, oh, I know what to do. 70 hertz. I know what to do with that now. You know, it's like NS-10, you know, the smaller speakers, they don't, you know, people, you know the way people used to work on NS-10s, this might be an aside, you would gauge how much the speaker was moving when you listened at a certain, you know, let's say an average volume. You knew how much the cone was supposed to move. If it was moving more than it ought to move, you have too much, like 60 hertz. You couldn't hear it. Nobody could hear it, but you could see it. To go, oh man, if you turn up loud, you'd blow the speakers. And so you go, I must have too much low bottom below 100 hertz that I'm not controlling. And then you'd go to bigger speakers where you could hear it and you'd learn to control it. But these were, you know, the mastering lab setup Super Golds were the creme de la creme in the mixer, real engineer world of guys and stuff. In that era. Well, there's you know, there's stubbornness, but there's understanding what you're working with is worth a lot. I mean, you could change gear every 2 weeks and make stuff that sounds like shit, you know. And you could be someone who doesn't change often enough, but if you really know your gear and you're staying related to contemporary sound, you'll know how they work together. But I mean, as far as some kind of improvement in speaker technology where you're going to hear more detail or frequency response or any of that, there is no more than those Tannoy Super Golds done with that mastering lab setup. That was the whole point of it. That's like, I mean, it can be different, but you're not going to really get better. Like in some technical way, there isn't better. NS-10s are kind of shitty. It's just everybody used them, everybody got used to them. Those don't have great frequency response. But those are meant to be true reference speakers, not in a massive size. That's like, I mean, ask the you know. I mean, I just worked with Howie Weinberg yesterday, the mastering guy. He's got 2 of those set up. He's got a big, tall stack. He's got some little tiny computer speakers for checking stuff, but he spends about a third of his time on those. Go look at all the gold, platinum records on his wall at his place. It's like, I'm not sure they've made a better speaker.